Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of This Week in Hospitality Digital Marketing, episode or show number 52.
Hey,
and with me,
one year without being canceled.
Is that weeks? And yeah, is this an anniversary?
52 weeks. 52 weeks of every week. It started on Wednesdays, now Fridays. So we're getting close to the magic year mark. This month we'll hit the magic year. With me, as always, is my indomitable co-host, Mr. Edward St. Ange from Flip2, Mr. Tim Peter from Tim Peter & Associates, and Mr. Robert Cole from Rock Cheetah. Gentlemen, a fine good morning to everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Opposites and reverses. I threw out agenda items, but as usual, they're throwing out the agenda items. Yeah, it's like, okay. What's that show? Whose line is it anyway?
Yep.
Where,
Yeah.
Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Count.
The points don't matter.
So are you the Drew Carey character? Is that
Yes, I guess I'm the Drew Carey character. Yes, that's my role. I want to know who else is the other character.
I want to be Colin Mockery. No.
I think, unfortunately, I have the hairline.
I think Tim's kind of got the.
Now, I do have to ask a question of Mr. Ed. I threw as a mystery the possibility that we were having a guest this week. I didn't know I didn't have a chance to talk with him.
I wasn't able to speak to him yet, so I'm going to follow up with him again to see when we can get on his schedule. And now I have a secondary idea, too, that I'm going to introduce the possibility of him coming. It's actually, he'd be an interesting one because he was brought in from outside the industry as part of a new executive team to take one very long-running company that's had a rough go at it the last few years and recreate it. And they're actually doing a good job. So I think it'd be interesting to have him on and talk about the process of being brought into a very large company that's had a rough time. Mm-hmm. And how do you recreate it and win back trust and everything? So I'm working on two now.
With a very large investment from their private equity.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yep.
Pressure from stakeholders.
I'll tell you what, though, since what I know about and what I've seen, they're actually executing well on the plan. It's the most promising version of this that company has done. So,
Well, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
looking forward. Let's hope we get on that.
Just so that you all know, we have been given fair warning and actually the privilege of having Mr. Neil Farron, and I'm looking for which hotel he is with, from Revenue Management Council of HSMAI is going to be joining us next week.
Wonderful.
By design.
Oh, wonderful.
So he will be on with us next week to give us the professional revenue manager's positioning. So I will be soliciting from you all between now and then. I know a couple of Tim, you and Ed had mentioned that there may be some possibility you won't be able to make it next week.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have a long-standing family commitment next week, so I will be out of pocket, as they say.
Okay.
I have an all-day interview, so.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That's
Very
always
nice.
good. We'll figure
Very
it out
nice.
here.
Where are you going, Ed?
Yeah. Exactly. He's got to get out of Flip.
Let's get the rumor mill started.
Exactly.
What you doing?
I will be sitting in the tall stool, thank you. No, we have a very, very interesting person came across Flip2, and, you know, all the best people we've hired, we didn't have positions for, and they weren't looking. And this is one of those cases. So we're, you know, it's a very different type of process. It's more of a conversation and seeing if there's a cultural fit, because we almost never post jobs of that type because we eventually just find the person or we already have someone in mind.
I think Larry Page is a great ad. Ed. I think he would be
The
outstanding.
thing is I just need to know if he'll fit well with my personality.
Exactly. Yeah,
As Tim knows, I'm a little bit rough. I don't let things go.
exactly.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I assumed it was Marissa Mayer.
Oh.
She's going to be looking for work.
I can't afford the losses.
Tim,
Shots fired.
Tim, I don't know whether you notice it, but we've never been invited by Ed. None of us have been to have one of these all-day conversations. I don't know. I've never heard a call from Ed saying, "Hey, come on down for a day. Let's see."
That's because the cumulative amount of time he's spent with us on these blabcasts
Has already given
far
me
exceeds day. Yeah.
Wait, did I freeze or did you guys freeze?
It was random. Like, it was random freezing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Robert and I were in constant communication, though, the whole time.
I
I'm
started
not
talking,
going.
but I realized there were like 3 guys just in there.
There is going to be no freezing on my part anymore, thanks to Time Warner Cable and giving me 350 megabits per second download speed, and 25 up, and it's the cheapest package. It was like, this makes no sense. Yeah,
Wait,
it's like,
wait,
I don't need 300. I just want 100. They're like, no, it's less expensive.
This is a peeve of mine. I have a question about this. So you're in Dallas, correct?
I am in Dallas, in Irving.
You're in Dallas. How many options did you have to choose from besides? That's it.
One.
That's it.
One.
Wow.
Well, Dish Network only.
That's not.
Oh yeah, no, that's not a real option. Okay,
Right.
no.
It rains in Dallas. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
no.
Wow,
That was
that's
all.
impressive.
No AT&T.
I'm fortunate. we
Other
have
areas.
two.
Yeah, other areas AT&T covers, other areas Frontier, but this particular spot only Time Warner.
Well, the reason I bring it up is I've talked about this a lot. I feel pretty passionately about this. Obviously, there's the big net neutrality debate that exists all over the place and stuff. And people say the government shouldn't get into this and all that other kind of stuff. And I tend to agree with that argument, with the one enormous caveat of the fact that in most places there is not a functioning market.
Right.
Yeah. When you have one option, you need to make sure that there's some sort of
and Charter was
getting into it.
Right.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
But the bottom line is it's actually not worth investing in that right now, because as soon as 5G is out, the game's changed. There's no more last mile.
Yeah.
Last mile is air. And if you look at, Verizon, they're betting all the chips on 5G. Mm-hmm. That's why they bought AOL. That's why they're buying Yahoo. Mm-hmm. This all plays into a content strategy that they have, that they plan on delivering what's currently called Fios. So they do have television service.
Right.
But delivering that to anyone who wants it anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we were having this conversation a couple weeks ago. We were talking about Lauren's trip to China and how in a lot of places in Asia, certain places in Eastern Europe, how they seem to be more advanced when it comes to mobile. And the reason is because they have no desktop legacy. They have no landline legacy. They have, it's always been mobile.
It's easy when you go from pen and paper to digital.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. One of the long-standing myths of digital that people miss a lot of times is that, if you've been doing this for any amount of time, if you've been doing hospitality digital marketing for any little time, you assume that people who are new to it have to start where you started instead of where you are.
They're better off not knowing the stuff you went.
Right. Yeah. The less you know about what used to be true, the better off you are. Just pick up where you are and move forward. So.
Okay. Interesting news item that didn't make it on your list. How about that rumor about Twitter? Have you guys heard?
I have not heard the rumor.
It's a pretty strong rumor that moved the stock 6%.
So they are being bought by
Steve Ballmer and a Saudi prince.
Really?
To be taken private.
Really?
Which would be the best thing for them.
And the price point makes sense, $25 a share. It's enough of a premium over current trading, but it's also not so much that you wouldn't be able to take that, do some bolt-on acquisitions, repackage it, and exit it for a hefty profit.
Right.
Yeah.
And even though a couple players came out and said it's probably unlikely, no one's come out and denied it. And the stock hasn't sunk back down, which means no one's exiting.
Yeah.
All right. So let's do a little McLaughlin group here. So Ed St. Ange, why is Twitter not succeeded as much as it should in the marketplace? Why is it even out there?
Lack of understanding of who they are in the space, lack of understanding on how to correctly monetize while also balancing user experience, which has caused growth issues for them. Complete lack of leadership. You can't do a shared CEO. I'm sorry. There's only one, Elon Musk. And even he now has merged two of the companies together. So all of that combined, plus they had the opposite scenario that Facebook had when Facebook went public. Everyone was rooting against Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg when it went public, which, pulled the stock down. It was a horrible IPO, where Twitter was the darling and Twitter skyrocketed. But the difference is Twitter didn't have the fundamentals that Facebook did. Yeah. So now Twitter is paying the price of not being able to deliver on being the internet's darling, where Facebook was the scrappy one who came up and proved everyone wrong.
All right. So good points. I have a contrarian point of view, but we'll come to that. Mr. Robert Cole, your take.
The challenge with Twitter is its real-time nature and just the signal to noise ratio in the feed. People don't sit on there and look at it, and they miss everything, right? So nobody uses the natural. There's Seth, my assistant back there.
What's your cat's name?
So hard to take you seriously.
And furthermore,
Beth the cat.
The peanut gallery.
The cat. Okay.
Beth the cat. He is quite intelligent, and he helps me considerably. He does most of the work around here, actually.
All right.
No, yeah, but I mean, I used to be on Twitter a lot. Very limited utility for me in terms of really being actively. I mean, during particular crisis situations, it's a really interesting thing. It's changed the news business, that sort of thing. But in terms of mass adoption it's not a social network, right?
It's a communications platform.
Right.
And the problem is they didn't correctly develop algorithms to understand what you would want to see. I mean, it's actually not that hard of a fix, right? You can cut through noise. Facebook does it, right?
Well,
and the real-time nature and the amount of volume has nothing to do with their ability to cut through noise.
No, and I really thought when they acquired
a fifth the size, a quarter the size of Facebook, in terms of just monthly active users.
Well, and their growth rate's been in decline.
Right.
Yeah, they may have negative.
Last earnings, they posted growth again.
Yeah, but they may have negative overall growth.
Lauren
starting soon.
I don't disagree with what anybody's saying. I think I go back to more of a developer's point of view. Twitter destroyed trust on the very community that needed it to grow with. It's not too far back to think when there was some great API interfaces that were going on with platforms, and they were monetizing them, and they turned into the case study of not putting your eggs in somebody else's basket because Twitter, for no other reason other than they could, shut shit off.
Right.
And all of a sudden, a very useful functionality, which was beginning to potentially create a monetization value for Twitter, literally disappeared, and Twitter didn't replace it. And it just excluded things. So now all of a sudden, when Twitter needs that creative development, people are like, I got burned last time. I'm not there to go over and develop crap for you again and either have it turned off or you just adopt it and then fail at implementing it.
Well, so they built a walled garden very effectively. There just wasn't anybody inside.
That's the problem, right? They failed to get big, and anything that got in the way of getting big.
Whoa.
They focused. Hold on.
They failed to continue growing with the perspective of what big is. 400 million active users.
They don't have 400 million active users. They never had 400 million active users.
That's the number they used.
They had 400 million accounts.
Right.
They had 400 million people signed up.
150 million active users.
Yeah, that I'd buy.
But then again,
I agree with what you said, that they absolutely failed to focus on how to make the product worth using. They failed on making the product something that would attract new people. Robert, I think you're absolutely right. They started trying to monetize it too soon, and in doing that, they screwed developers, as Lauren just said, which hurt their ability to actually scale.
Yep.
Facebook got big, and then they made money. Expedia got big, and then they made money. Booking got big, and then they made money. Google got big, and then they made money. Twitter was like, well, we look like we could be big at some point. Let's try to figure out how to make money.
Well, Twitter did get big, but I agree with Lauren. And the situation, they're
your point. They're not a social network.
Right. No, it was who they
hold people there, so they weren't big enough. If you're bleeding people, like a sieve,
right?
Although they're a pretty hefty percentage of the internet.
Yeah, they are. Just so we don't miss people on the other side, CD Scully would just ask a question just to throw up is, what will this mean for Square Up?
Square is a separate,
Yeah.
Separate
Square would get
thing.
a full-time CEO again.
Right.
And stop getting killed by Twitter.
Crushed. Yeah.
But here's the thing. We could talk badly about them all we want, but the good news is they have about 140 years of runway in cash on hand.
Sure.
Exactly.
So they've got
And that's why private is actually better for them, because the problem they have right now is they're chasing the street. They're trying to get in front of the street every single quarter, when in fact they should be focused on how do they actually make a better product.
Right, and mid and long term focus is important.
Right.
So that's why I think there's like some legs under this potential. They do make a good acquisition target to go private. They would be a horrible acquisition for Google.
Oh God. Yeah.
They'd actually, I think Verizon, they'd be a good acquisition for Verizon as part of the strategy that they're executing on, because they disappear inside of Verizon's P&L. And you wouldn't hear about them, because that's what they need. Is they need people to stop talking about this quarter, because the thing is the news is good. They are not going out of business anytime soon. They are traded at just a really healthy rate that they're a good buy. They're just a good buy. We
are obligated to say that past performance is no indicator of future success, and
I am a shareholder.
There you go.
I'm there with you. I'm there with you. I've been Twitter for a while.
Listen, as soon as the share price hit a point where their market cap was mostly the cash they had, I bought a lot because it's cash.
Right. Actually, I will tell you, I love Twitter. I'm a huge fan of Twitter. I think it's a terrific tool. I've used it very effectively for marketing myself. I've used it very effectively for marketing clients of mine in some cases. I actually made what I'm pretty sure was the first hotel reservation sale on Twitter in 2008 or something like that, that I'm aware. Wow. I mean, I want to be very clear. We couldn't scale it, and it was more luck than anything else. But it led to some positive press and some positive branding for the company I was with at the time and everything else, and it worked out really well.
No, I really think there are opportunities like on TweetDeck and things like when they acquired things like that. I really thought, okay, now they're going to start doing some things where you can curate it, start having, because I'll use TweetDeck and kind of keep track of different topics or hashtags and things like that. Conferences going on, all those sorts of things. You can. It's great.
Oh, and
there's huge fatigue also, I think, for users to just kind of be in there constantly using it, to use it the way Facebook has become part of people's DNA. And Facebook has been brilliant in terms of coming up with their news feed. I don't have the stat, but I read something last week. The percentage of people who are now getting their news off of the little, trending story. I mean, it's like
Moments. They did a great job with Moments.
64%. 64% is the stat. Hey, just as a note, so we keep everyone on the side. Barb agrees with you, Ed, about the full disclosure of the Twitter kind of thing and so forth. What I'd like to twist this possibly to also is the value proposition of why Twitter, in a marketing sense, it's a perishable product, and just the strategy associated with marketing with Twitter is uniquely different. Well, no, Snapchat might be similar to it. Is it's used for saturation purposes now. It's used for, with Facebook, you do lead storylines. I mean, when you do marketing with these platforms, Facebook is storyline creation. There's a timeline of progression. The crescendos at the point of the opportunity that you want to present. Twitter is about hammering. Sometimes it's hard selling, and saturation is the strategy components of Twitter, because the perishability level, what is it? A 7-second is what they're saying, or 22 seconds? I forget the exact stat.
Right.
It's goldfish-like. Yeah.
So it's
less than goldfish.
Yeah. So you have to be standing at the place that lightning's hitting at exactly the time that it's supposed to strike for you to have any impact on what you're doing on Twitter, because if you're not focusing on the conference that you're trying to saturate, or the event that you're trying to blanket,
Right.
or the activity that you want to be shown in front of, you're missing the opportunity, because all the rest of it just turns into what you referred to, Robert, as,
Right.
as static white noise.
Well,
But that's also the
That's
problem.
what I like about.
But that's
Go
also
ahead,
the
Robert.
problem with Twitter, because when you're following, a particular newsfeed, and all of a sudden it starts getting, quote, spammed, right? Because not a lot of people do that. But if you get a lot of folks coming in saying, but here's a restaurant, try this, and all sorts of things that are not germane to that hashtag, it's tough, right?
Wait, is that pulling a Tim?
I pulled a Tim Peter.
That's okay.
Tim Peter.
So,
Hey,
so
welcome to this week in shameless promotion.
we actually, we have pretty interesting statistics on trust in these social platforms. So what's interesting is I just posted a blog post about 4 key insights that we saw last year, and they've continued. That's why we haven't updated it. So what's interesting is of all sharing on Flip2, for all of the hotels we work with, 58% of people choose Facebook to share. A fraction choose Twitter, but 68% of all unique visitors back, because Flip2 is about pulling people out of social, come from Twitter.
That's a neat stat.
Well,
That's a neat stat.
that's interesting.
That's a neat stat.
Yep.
So even though for volume-wise it's less, impact-wise it's substantially larger.
For unique visits. Now,
Right,
for
if we
unique visits,
go to
right, not necessarily-
transactions, like if we
Yeah,
go
right.
chase it to bookings, Facebook's the champion.
Right.
Sure,
And
but
it-
that can
and
be
it-
volume-based too. That's just volume-based as well, though. I mean, with the volume you're sending over via Facebook, no?
No,
Huh.
I mean so when we went deep into the data on this, so here's what we found is we basically walked away with trust is what plays here. So from a share reach to conversion perspective, Facebook was number 1, LinkedIn was number 2,
Yeah.
Twitter was number 3, even though Twitter created the largest shockwave of reach and then pullback and then immediate abandonment.
Yeah.
And it's because people are looking to see if they just want to retweet someone else's tweet. They're not actually curious in what the person's doing.
Right.
Where on
Right.
Facebook,
Before.
you look at the amount of time someone spends when they click through a link that someone shares on Facebook. It's amazing. They're actually open to a new idea. And then LinkedIn is a far lower volume just across the board, but higher conversion.
I told somebody, I said, if you want to compare them in some sort of analogy, I said, Twitter's like drinking Red Bull, Facebook's like drinking coffee, and LinkedIn's like drinking hot tea.
Yeah.
They all give you some effect, but it's all what you want when you need it.
Twitter is like drinking liquid cocaine.
But that's why I think.
And Ed has done the empirical study on that.
My beverage of choice.
That's what he's drinking right there. Yeah.
That's why you look at the people who've done Twitter well, it's folks like Hyatt, what they're doing with their concierge, right? They're using it as a listening platform.
Yep.
Right.
More than a
Communication.
broadcast platform.
So that's the
Right.
thing.
Pure communication, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
can harness engagement and you put a human element to it. It is a way to sniff out opportunity to catch micro moments. But if you're talking about advertising, if you're talking about things like that, it's a beast. It's a beast to try to get your arms around. It's a beast to understand what it's going to do for you. It's pretty tough.
I will tell you the one thing where we've had some success with some clients I've worked with Twitter specifically is it is not a terrible way. There are better ways, but it's not a terrible way to reach journalists.
It's a great way to reach
Oh, no, it's a great way.
If you have newsworthy stuff, if you have things like that, it can be a very effective way as part of your influencer strategy, as part of your influencer outreach, things along those lines. But it's much more of a PR play. It's much more of a, that kind of play than it is, as you said, brand building or social social in the sense of what we think of advocacy or driving transactions or anything along
So talking about influencers and give you something else interesting we found, size of network is directly relational to amount of trust. So
sure.
don't
Makes
get
sense.
fooled by paying someone who has a large network to promote your products, because we've actually found, we have the data that shows a person with a 250 to 500 person network will have the highest ratio of return to conversion of all network sizes. Every amount over 10,000 followers will actually degrade the percentages of conversion because the people don't know this person, don't trust them.
Right.
You know, it's so part of it is Twitter feeds some of this by giving you daily, weekly suggestions on who to follow and stuff like that.
Sure.
They're like, they prop this up to where sometimes you just hit follow and you don't know the person.
Right.
You don't care anything about them. You're probably ignoring their tweets. So, you know, when you do talk about influencers and paying for influencers, like if they're not a legit celebrity, okay, and legit celebrity would include heavily followed bloggers, you know, so bloggers who have history of performance that their people really listen to what this person says. You know, and also professors, things like that. Those tend to be Tim Peter, great, you know, pseudo celebrity,
Pseudo
internet famous,
not
internet famous,
complete. Yes.
So yeah, so just
uncompromising celebrity.
Yeah, we see interesting statistics because we do track quite a bit of volume of sharing, extraction, and then different forms of conversion over long periods of time. So we have really developed what's the sweet spot of a powerful advocate.
So you mentioned Facebook, you mentioned LinkedIn, you mentioned Twitter. What about Instagram, Pinterest, things along those lines? I mean,
listen, you look at Facebook and what Facebook does to the graph makes Pinterest and LinkedIn, or Pinterest and Instagram and Snapchat not even show up.
Right.
They're just not big enough yet to register any real volume. And part of the reason they're not big enough yet is a little bit to have to do with the form factor of the user experience and what the users are using it for. I actually really like Snapchat. I think Snapchat's got a big future as they continue to build out the platform, make it more advertiser friendly. You know, we're very interested in creating really good solutions for our hotels for Snapchat when it's right. It's not right now.
Right.
Instagram, I mean, again, it's first of all, most people in Instagram are using their Facebook account for it. So Instagram is just an alternative UI for Facebook. It is. So we do get a lot of posting to it, but again, a lot of posting is nowhere near what even Twitter does, nowhere near what LinkedIn does, nowhere near what Facebook does.
Right.
Yeah. But you do on Instagram have some, in terms of bloggers or, especially when they're more photo oriented and things like that, where you have people who have very strong, highly engaged followings. So you can do some things like that. If, again, if it's one of these advocacy things and you have that particular individual working with you. In particular cases, it can work out well. But you're right; it's not going to be as big. It's going to be very niche, but maybe highly engaged.
Is it's a much better location for a brand to try to build a healthy following. You'll never get the scale that you're going to get if you get it right with Facebook, but it's more welcome in those forms than it is in Facebook. So you're looking at, you create a really cool photo as a brand and you share it out. That's actually the correct thing to do on Pinterest. It's not always the correct thing to do on Facebook to your followers.
By the way, David just made a great point over in the comment box about how, with many of these social platforms, especially Instagram, they don't pass a referrer over, so you don't necessarily see the traffic from that.
This is the difference.
Obviously, that's where you want to tag the links and things along those lines. Make sure you're using your UTM codes and things like that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm sharing this data, because Flip2 tracks the entire pipeline and tracks it so far into the future. Once we register someone as belonging to something, we can track them for years. And it's because of not just our tracking, but the way we are integrated throughout the hotel and the way we keep profiles. It is. And that's why, like, when you listen to like Peter Yesowich talk about the impact of social influence, he'll actually tell you that there's no proof that it's beneficial. It's because the majority of it that's happening isn't correctly tracked.
Right. That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Just to give a recap to those that have joined us, David and a few others, we've got some nice live audience in the background for most of this. Our discussion currently right now is about Twitter, the rumor, as Ed brought to the table, of its possible acquisition and privatization.
He's just trying to pop the price.
That's it. He's a stockholder, everybody. So much.
Now, the interesting, let's tie this back to hotels because, Prince bin Alwaleed, Alwaleed bin Talal. So
That's why I didn't say his name.
Alwaleed bin Talal is also an owner of Four Seasons, and just as far as I know, I think he kept some money and actually now has money in Accor through the Fairmont, the Fairmont sale as well, and also Citibank's largest shareholder, and he has a couple of other holdings here and there.
1 second, Lauren, go ahead.
Just one thing, you mentioned Fairmont, and I forgot to mention that our guest speaker next week, Neil Fagan, is the executive director. It's the executive director of the Fairmont Hotels and Resorts. So it will be interesting to have him on next week. Perhaps if we can put some questions together for it and have him prep for it, we can get some of the points and highlights. But I do also want to bring up the fact that we might have a show. You remember the 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon? I don't know whether anybody's noticed, but we should have the 6 Degrees of Robert Cole for Four Seasons. It seems somehow Robert's able to bring whatever we're talking about back to Four Seasons. So somehow Four Seasons is connected by 1 or 2 steps to everything in the known universe.
All that means is whoever developed the training program for Four Seasons is the same person who brings in first-year Cornell people, because Cornell people are very skilled at working it into the first 5 minutes that you meet them of telling you they went to Cornell.
And I do.
People are very skilled.
How can you tell the Cornell? How can you tell the Cornell grad at a party? Don't worry, they'll tell you.
And just for the record, I did make.
And
Robert
I'm not going to tell you what the Cornell Hotel Society does without you guys. Sorry.
And that's okay. No, that's
I did for fair play.
It's all in fun. It's all with love. Go Big Red.
No,
and all in fair play, I did make Mr. Robert Cole a co-host today.
Why, thank you.
So we're going to get booted off any second now, Ed.
How dare you?
Let's see. Dave's throwing some stuff on the other side there too. For those who don't know, Dave is our silent Jiminy Cricket conscious sometimes on the side. He doesn't often join us live, but he definitely contributes to our conversations.
Yeah. Actually, Dave made a great point on the remarketing through. So absolutely, huge.
Retargeting is amazing in social.
Facebook is
absolutely.
That's the thing. Facebook has fundamentally dropped the cost of advertising for most businesses because their targeting is amazing. Their education, they're the easiest advertising platform to learn how to use, and just what it does to do the more advanced thinking for you with like their pixel to build audiences and all of that. It's an absolute amazing platform.
So I've got a question actually for the group. We'll do the McLaughlin thing, go around. So the impressions versus clicks, right? Because not everybody, they'll see it in terms of their feed and they see the ad, but they don't necessarily click on it. So if they don't click on it, you don't necessarily pay for it, right? So feelings on the actual value. Is it undervalued? Is it cheap?
If you did it right, you would get immense value. The problem is most hotel ads don't leave enough in the ad to actually be worth the impression. Because most of them, and actually when I do speaking on kind of what's wrong with hotel marketing right now, I talk about the fact that hotel ads, they always have book now on them. And nothing about the ad earned that call to action. And nothing about the ad is going to leave a lasting impression with the person. So the actual reach and value of that is lost because nothing about it. They're not selling the right stuff. They're trying to sell rooms instead of selling experiences and things like that. And so, I talk about it quite a bit. And I actually pull a side-by-side of a hotel ad that I found on the internet. And then what I think an ad could be to get the maximum amount of value. And what's funny is the hotel ad that I found on the internet was like the perfect example you could have hoped to find. It wasn't even a picture of the hotel. It was a picture of a log cabin on a snowy mountain. Just had the name of the hotel and book now. But when I was doing the research to find as many versions of hotel ads on social and Google and all that I could, that was the majority of them were very similar to where it could have been any building. So we play this game where at Flip2, we call it the doppelganger effect. Could you basically change out the imagery and just change the name and the ad works? Most hotel ads you can do that with.
And hotel websites.
Well, yeah.
Well, and this is great. Actually, I gotta jump in because David on the comment box just said they're selling the widget, not the solution / experience. And David, you are spot on. I think we agree completely. We've talked about this a number of times. Look, let's be very fair. Expedia and Booking.com are way better at merchandising and doing e-commerce than most hotels will ever be.
Yep.
Most hotels ought to be much better at running a hotel than Expedia or Booking.com or Airbnb or anybody else should ever be.
Yep.
And so if you're trying to sell people on the booking experience, you're doing the wrong damn thing.
Well, you're competing at the wrong time.
You're competing at the wrong time.
Because if you're competing at time of transaction, like that's the most expensive. It's the hardest time. And oh, by the way, you didn't spend nearly enough money to compete at that time because Expedia, Booking.com, American Express. I mean, everyone who sells travel and has sold travel for a long time has spent a lot more money a year than you do.
Well, and here's my theory on it. Hotels, when they have constrained budgets, what do? They try to get as low in the funnel as possible, right? And then when they're tracking things, they don't have very good tracking. So maybe they're just doing last click attribution. That's what. So they're just focused way at the end, and then they just try to, when you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Right? And that's it. And they just wail away at it. And surprise, it doesn't work because there's no relationship.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. It still kind of works.
Oh,
but it doesn't work how it could, and that's the problem. So it's giving false positives to that they think they're doing the right thing. But this is also why, Lauren, you talked about wanting to talk about loyalty. This is why it's so expensive to try to win loyalty, because you're doing everything leading up to the point wrong, which is eroding any brand affinity that you're going to try and create on property before they even get there. So you make pushing them too loyal that much harder.
Yes, very true.
High school dating syndrome, I call it. Everybody wants to do it. They don't know what they're doing, and things just get ugly.
Yep.
I'd like to add to the point
that's a cleaned up version of how I usually do that one, Robert. That was good.
That's good. I just add to what you made as a statement, Robert. For social to work well, it is about, and mentioned earlier, storyline. It's the creation of a dialogue. It's the accumulation of making people aware of things and getting excited about the proposition. It's not about the hard sell all the time. It's the contra to it, actually. It's creating the interest through a cycle. And yet it then turns counterproductive that you asked about doing ads and stuff. And then we shove in their face, you book now, like you said. It's like, no, the last thing I'm going to be doing with any sort of ad is making a decision based on 140 characters or 250 words or whatever.
Yep.
Right.
That has nothing to do with what I'm doing, and it's all about bringing them to a crescendo of opportunity. That at the moment that they decide, you should always have that action availability for them. But it's not a driving action. It's not the ad isn't about the selling the point. The ad is to solicit the engagement. Yep. It's to bring them into the conversation. The conversation brings them to the point of discovery. Discovery brings them to the point of interest, and on and on and on. And it's that kind of advertising, like you said, the cabin on the hill. It's the thought, the creation of that moment of that sounds nice. That looks nice, and then I want to find out more. And then they're going to have that discovery point. And then the ad is simply more than just the end of the conversation.
So they started at the right point with the cabin on the top of the hill, but they forgot things like, what city are you in?
Exactly.
Right. Location, relative value.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, again, we could probably tear apart just about anything that goes through with ads and stuff, but it is just realizing the platform you're speaking about. I didn't want to draw too much of a comparison between Twitter and Snapchat and things like, because they are different mediums. There's different thought processes to the value. I know you're a big fan of Snapchat to it. I think Snapchat's awesome as well, but used correctly. It's an audience that takes very little tolerance to infusion of selling.
Well, fortunately, that's why it's good that Snapchat has made it really hard to discover anything. Because generally, I've not seen any time that I thought Snapchat's been used incorrectly. But it's because I haven't been able to find anything that Snapchat hasn't put in front of me.
Right.
So,
Right.
so maybe that's Snapchat's plan is only put really good stuff in front of people and make it impossible to find anything else. And, we'll keep our user experience alive.
Tim, you dropped in a link.
Just talking about. I'm just dropping a couple. Talking about.
Just happened to have a few
just happened to have
blog posts that he just wrote.
All I'm doing is transcribing last week's episode, and that's the post. The first was just about the whole idea of selling value. Don't sell price, sell value. Right? I get on this soapbox, if not every week, certainly every other week, about the fact of many of the clients that I'm working with and many of the hotels who I respect and many of the hotels I learn from, tend to be the highest rated product in their comp set in their market, right? Because what they're doing, highest rated both in the sense of highest rated and reviewed and highest rated in terms of charge more than their comp set does, because they're not focused on, let's get that last minute transaction. Let's, book now, book now, book now. It's more about, let's explain to you the value you're getting when you come here. Let's explain to you why we're $10 more expensive than the guy across the street and why you're going to walk out of here feeling like you got a discount, right? I mean, to me, that's what great hotels do. And then this last one that I dropped in is just this model I've been using for years that I refer to as P's and Q's, and it's price, proximity, location, or price, proximity, and quality are the things that actually drive people's purchase decision. Mm-hmm. And I always tend to think of it sort of as a triangle or sort of an overlapping Venn diagram, where how big a role each of those will play is going to vary based on the nature of the trip. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, if you're on a per diem, price is going to have a much bigger component than if you're not. Mm-hmm. If you're traveling with, your family and you need multiple rooms, it's going to play a bigger role, or things like that. If it's your once in a lifetime trip and it's your honeymoon, price gets pushed down and location or proximity to other things you care about and quality goes up a ton. So it's just building on the stuff that we've been talking about and saying, that's exactly what we have to do. You have to tell a good story about your property. You have to get people to understand why you're worth going to in the first place. Why should anyone care? What the two questions that I always go back to is, first, Dave, I don't think you can refer to a honeymoon as a once in a lifetime event anymore. I have a buddy who's been divorced 3 times, and he always says, "You know why divorce is so expensive? Because it's worth it." Anyway, I've been married happily for 22 years. I'd like to point out, but
Ed, why don't we take a video of that? We can play it for Tammy a couple times.
No, we're just going to send the link to the show.
Please.
It's funny. I believe I said I was going to do the same thing about the other video I had.
She's heard the joke, and she knows the joke. Actually, she knows the guy, so she's heard him actually say it. But this is about selling value, and the two questions you have to answer for guests is, am I going to have a good time, right? Am I going to enjoy myself for some given value of enjoy once I've stayed with you? Right. And the second question is, why should I book with you? Mm-hmm. And if you can answer those two questions effectively, you're going to win all day, every day. Right. Obviously, there are sub questions that come under those, and those are kind of wrapping them up in a quick little, pithy way that you can say it in 20 seconds on a blabcast. But that's the job. That's the job as marketers, is answer those two questions consistently.
And what are the major hotel groups doing now? They're going, hey, if you're a regular customer, you're going to pay a lower price. After
unless
working,
you have AAA.
Yeah. Unless you have unless you through so many other channels. Yeah.
God, I can't wait till AAA goes away.
Okay, so
I'm going to give a hot take.
Like
AARP.
No. So while we have Tim, you mentioned you got maybe an hour cap, and that's it. And we're coming.
Yeah, actually, I'm out of here in like 16 minutes personally. So.
I want to talk about earnings for the OTAs.
Okay, we can. One thing I want to throw in here is this is the link, and compliments to Ed. I'm trying to use Wistia more. I do still use YouTube as much as everything, so I threw it on Wistia just to have. Our video promotion recap from last week has 7,827 views.
Wow. Oh, the recap. Wow.
as an animation. So obviously,
As an animation.
cartoon versions.
Yeah.
That's the show. That's the promo. Okay, so our show gets 1,000, but our animated ad gets almost 8,000.
So listen, I'll have my animators mock up a better version of me for you, Lauren.
No. I like the version
Because
of
But only
Robert
Ed.
Cole
No, only of Ed.
representation looks like me. I look like a curmudgeon oil tycoon.
like
I
I
look
said.
like Thurston Howell the Third in it.
And Lauren,
I love it.
you're like Guy Smiley.
No, he's Mr. Movie Phone.
Oh, but the idea. I put the link in there for those that are watching this live. Yeah, for those who may not have seen it, out of the 8,000, most people have seen it. But I put the link off to the side to take a peek at. I did an animation play of a promotion and a recap of our previous show just to play with, to do something different. And the reason why Mr. Ed is the old Kamajini is because if you've watched the show, like David and a few others out there live, he keeps making the point that he is the youngest of the four of us. So I thought visually we should flip that around a little bit and, just do that. So I will go back to more authentic.
If you can cut
animation.
at least the evil undertones of it, though, that would be helpful. 'Cause
Wait,
I
no. Actually, that was the part.
ah.
That was the part I thought was most accurate. Ed.
Oh,
You would.
The kind of the Bond villain vibe. I like that.
I'm the only one who you haven't seen a cat in a shot yet, okay?
So anyway, I will go to a more accurate characterization. $1 million. But yeah, so I'm going to mix it up as our part
Such
of our
a
promotion.
valuable show this week.
It is. It's a
Recap's
quality
gonna be
product. But anyway, I want to share that with you all, that we got a very, very good, solid response on our animation of our recap. So I'm
Only
going to throw that in.
4,000 of those views were Lauren.
It was. And you're like,
Mom, come here. Look what I did.
Look at us.
oh, yeah.
All
But
right,
anyway,
Here, Flip,
Robert, you want to talk about earning?
before we go to
Earnings.
earnings, I'll add to Lauren's thing. We do joke at Flip 2. There is a group of people who are the fastest to like all of our social posts, and it's mostly the moms of the employees and owners. And so there is a group we call the moms of Flip 2 because they are the first ones to like and comment on any social share that Flip 2 does or that someone else does that is about Flip 2, is one of the moms.
That's a very interesting on like word of mouth though, and friends and family and how stuff spreads. So I mean, that's kind of the old school. That's the old school way, right?
We call it mom marketing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. Earnings.
All right,
So-
Robert.
Earnings. Interesting thing. I'll focus on the OTAs predominantly, and then how it ties back to the macro hotels. But so Expedia came out. They missed in terms of revenue, but they beat in terms of earnings, as did Priceline. The interesting thing though is you've got a situation. Expedia has 12% basically organic growth, right, year over year, which is strong. Priceline, being 2.5 times larger, is growing twice as fast. It's at 24% growth. It is just rocking it, right? So the interesting question then comes down to, well, what's the impact of these book direct campaigns? Because you have all sorts of headwinds from you've certainly got the Brexit issues, you've got terrorism issues, and you've got all these things.
Zika.
Yeah, Zika virus.
Tim Peter.
Is that timpeter.com or timpeter.com/?
That's a classic contextual relationship issue of getting coupled with other things. But so you run into this situation, you go, wow, that's pretty impressive. Then you look at the overall hotel industry, and I track the U.S. very, very closely. I don't really track the rest of the world that much, but U.S. numbers are pretty good. Quarter to date in the third quarter, occupancy is down actually 1% year over year. Right. Now rate is getting pushed. It's up almost 4%, 3.8%. So RevPAR is up just under 3%. But you look at that without the demand, right? In terms of that really happening, there has to be share shifts going to the OTA, continuing and accelerated, at least in a macro sense. And Dara basically came out and said they saw no evidence of the hotel campaigns having any impact on what they were doing. So
there is evidence that this is causing issues. So did any of you read the articles about kind of the aha moment about how OTAs are dimming hotels?
Yes. Yeah. Chris Elliott, did it. Yeah.
So first of all,
which we don't need to read.
They've always done that. It's just now more obvious because they are becoming more aggressive to keep their earnings in check as their inventory is constrained.
Well, and the interesting thing that Dara came up with, I can't remember if I mentioned it last week, was as they shift away from the major chains who have their lower margin for them. So they dim these guys, they move down the list, it shifts to a bit, it increases their margins.
Yep.
Right? So it's actually it's a virtuous cycle for them to do that.
And I know of at least one case specifically, one of the larger brands is getting some pushback from some owners.
Absolutely.
Because they're losing occupancy. And to a point, the fact that they're getting more rate from the folks who are booking direct doesn't matter to them. They're losing enough occupancy where it's starting to hurt them.
Right.
And so,
absolutely.
Well, and
for lots of reasons, I can't talk about who it is, but I mean, the reality is that
this is where there's a conundrum for a hotel owner.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'll actually use a pretty interesting example. So the Nickelodeon in Orlando, which is no longer the Nickelodeon, it's back to an IHG. Right. Anyone who's been on that property knows it has got just some very special things about it. And they just spent $30 million making the rooms nicer.
Yep.
Wow.
Which it needed. But they dropped.
Probably needed.
I don't know about 30 million, but they need nicer rooms.
Well, it's a huge resort.
Well, it's a huge property
area, but it also went into scrubbing Nickelodeon branding from the hotel.
Sure.
And so go look up that hotel on IHG. Go look at the marketing of that hotel on IHG. And the only reason there are things about this hotel is you catch a glimpse of them in some of the pictures.
Right.
This hotel is being marketed like a Holiday Inn.
Like everything else.
Holiday Inn.
Right.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Hilton. The same goes for Marriott. It's completely generic. You'll find these really cool historic properties that they have. You go, wow, that's so neat. And it's a cool location. Just completely scrubbed.
Wait, but why is that a surprise? I mean, the integrity of the brands is literally about brand. I've had this argument with brands for all the years back when I was even with hotels. Brands take care of brand. They're not there to take care of the property. They're not there to take the uniqueness of the property unless it benefits brand. I mean, if they can highlight brand, that's their value proposition. It's not highlighting the property.
Well, that's where I think the soft brands have given them some ability to get better.
Absolutely.
Curio and
but it's still brand recognition.
Autograph.
But
like Robert said,
I gotta bring up Four Seasons again. Sorry, but this is a long time ago.
You talk a lot about them. Did you ever work there?
I did. I ran marketing planning for them corporately. Yeah.
Right after Cornell.
Really? I'd never heard that before.
No.
So,
excuse me while I answer my email.
Ow. Okay.
Ow.
So, what we
go ahead, Robert.
We had a challenge: Four Seasons versus Ritz-Carlton. Right? Both great brands.
Yeah.
Any way you cut it on a pure branding perspective, Ritz beat Four Seasons. Pure name construction, Ritz-Carlton gave better results than Four Seasons. Very difficult. But the differentiation and the key strategy shift, and again, this is way, way back in the 80s, but very important for the underpinnings of the company, was Four Seasons became a mosaic. Right, of all these very different sorts of hotels, where Ritz-Carlton's approach was more a melting pot. And that was always kind of the difference, in where we picked it up and where I kind of pushed it with the company, was that was always the difference between Canada and the US. The US was a melting pot. You're American first, and then wherever you came from second. In Canada, you're really wherever you were first, and the Canadian. second sort of thing. And that's what we kind of leveraged strategically. And that's what has worked for Four Seasons. And they found when they started trying to do these cookie cutter things, like Four Seasons Boston was an unmitigated disaster when the thing opened, because the guys tried to copy another property. The general manager, director of marketing tried to copy another property. It was horrible. Philadelphia was outstanding. It was very unique. Seattle, very unique. All these ones that we did they stood on that particular property. How do you promote that? And then make, the brand was the frame to the
right.
picture of that being the hotel experience. But yeah, that's it. And that's where they've lost it. And the brands are all just, you're this first and forget the unique aspects, and they commoditize themselves.
But I think Ed is onto something really important here. Remember, I worked for Wyndham and I worked for the leading hotels of the world. So you couldn't have been at more opposite ends of the spectrum. Right, I know. But you couldn't have been at more opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of the types of properties. Mm-hmm. And you couldn't have been more at opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of approach. Because Wyndham, right, was all about, when somebody's staying in a Super 8, and I love Super 8. I think Super 8's a terrific brand. But what Super 8 should be is insanely consistent from property to property to property, right? It should be clean. It should be friendly. It should be easy in, easy out, right? That's what people want when they want a Super 8. When you're the leading hotels of the world, and it's funny that you use that term, we use the exact same term about we were the frame, not the painting, right? And our job was to showcase the painting. And every property was distinctly different, was, 100% independent properties. Actually, in the latest, I believe this is true. From what I've heard, we had some very small groups. We had some Trumps. We had some, for heaven's sakes, Taj properties, folks along those lines. And at this point, I believe every single property within the leading portfolio is 100% independent. There are no more small groups within leading.
That was my first move at Four Seasons Corporate was actually to pull all the Four Seasons out of leading, because it didn't make any. They're spending a lot of money. And for Four Seasons, it wasn't it wasn't cost effective.
Makes no sense.
But it wasn't good.
But I would argue, but I just want to go back to I actually want to go to your point real quick, Ed, and then I'm going to go away pretty soon, so you get to say anything you want. Not that stopped you before.
Thank you for the permission.
But the situation, you're welcome. The point is, I've been to the Nickelodeon property. I realize it's an IHG again. It's a terrific property.
So
and
cool.
I would argue it shouldn't be a Holiday Inn.
Right.
Well, this was the point I was going to make.
It should be in their soft brand, because it is a distinctly different property, and the brand should sell the brand.
And hotel owners, and this was the point I was going to make is you need to make sure that if you're picking a brand, you're picking the right type of brand for your hotel. And so a property like that shouldn't be an IHG. It shouldn't be like any of their Holiday Inn product. It should be their soft brand, which is Indigo, right?
No.
No. Indigo is another chain.
It's a lower end lifestyle brand.
Okay.
Kind of a lower tier lifestyle brand.
Anyways, the Holiday Inn's Curio, whatever that would be. It should be something like that.
Because they could make it a
Kimpton. Except Kimpton Loyalists would be a little bit upset with
that,
because it is not like any other Kimpton. But I have a feeling that owner at some point is going to look at what they did. They spent a lot of money to update the property, and then they put it in the hands of someone who's not aligned to marketing what's special about the property, and also just the amount of IHG product in Orlando alone.
Right. Yep.
Right.
So, so when we're looking at market share, when we're looking at earnings, when we're looking at who's in it for who, I think part of the problem is when owners get the brand wrong. There are independent hotels that shouldn't be independent hotels. And
absolutely,
how do you know? Because their marketing and their revenue teams struggle because they're a box.
Yep.
And they'd be a great box if they were consistent with other boxes for people who were looking for consistency in boxes.
Yep.
And then you see amazing historic, great properties fly a flag that you just scratch your head and you're like, why are you flying that flag? Fly a Four Seasons flag, fly Omni, like someone who's known to have interesting properties like that, because they also have marketing to point out what's interesting.
But a lot of times they won't fly that flag. They won't adopt the brand standards and put in the spend, and especially in down markets. I mean, it's very expensive to be a Four Seasons owner when the market's down. I mean, it is a long play, and most of them don't have patience for that. But a lot of them, even to get funding, though. I mean, yes, a new owner comes in, a lot of the banks.
That's where soft brands.
You need the big brand to go do it, and the soft brands are helping. Or are doing two things. One is helping to get the funding, and the other thing is to retain these properties when they say, okay, screw it, Hilton's not doing it, now I'm going to go do my own thing, and they get a fee reduction basically, and they still get 90% of the benefits. And
and if you care and if you care about loyalty from a rewards program perspective, that's a plus.
Gamification, not loyalty, which ties into the thing that
nice, Robert. I'm stealing the hell out of that because that's exactly right.
It is
right.
It has nothing.
But if it's right, if you want the rewards program, But a lot of the soft brands are entirely about retention of owners who realize they can be just as effective without the flag. Not necessarily without the other benefits that the chain brings to them, but without the flag itself. Real quick thing, and then I have to bolt. I just posted a link. This is something I wrote a few months ago. After Expedia wrote that really snotty piece over on T News about snotty.
I
know. It's shocking.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
shocking.
She wasn't snotty.
Oh my God!
It was snooty and snotty.
Basically explaining, how Expedia is a better value to hotel owners than their brands are, and this was my response, which is, sure, if you squint and tilt your head funny and things along those lines, maybe in some cases, sure, and there are certainly cases where the answer is that's probably true. In most other cases, there's a word for that. I'm trying to remember what it is. Bullshit.
I
thought you were going to say arrogance.
I was going to say sour grapes.
For sure. So anyway, the point is, and it kind of touches on what we were just talking about. There are lots of things that brands bring to the table. Technology stack, recognition programs, or gamification. I like that. Other res channels like a chain code, etc. Rev management, operational training support, access to financing, which is massively overlooked. Yep. We had a bunch of hotels when I was at Leading that were leading hotels. Now these are 5-star ultra luxury properties who certainly had the right idea and the right sense of how to actually get their product in front of people, but couldn't get the funding for it without somebody backing them up. And Leading was great for people getting funding in that case. So all these other things that chains do, and I just thought I would promote that shamelessly for just a second, because it helps people look at not just the situation with Expedia and the chains in this case, but how you might think about whether it's right for you to be an independent, whether it's right for you to be a chain, whether it's right for you to be in a soft brand, or whether it's right for you to carry a flag all the way around. So something to check out.
In 2004, Expedia got outrageously arrogant, and they tried to break IHG's back, right? In terms of their...
surely not.
But, they went all in terms of asking for last room availability, and it was divide and conquer, because I believe that the stats that I heard were that they were generating about 15% of the transient, traffic go into IHG. And in their calculations, that was more than what the Holiday Inn brand was generating. Because again, Expedia, I think, and Priceline, they start looking at this and going, right. And Tim, you mentioned the chain code. Well, that's right. But the rule is those chain codes were set up by the GDSs. They were set up the same way airlines were. You could only have one, and it's winner take all. And so every piece of corporate business that comes from Carlson, Vaughan Lee, or Amex or whatever gets credit to the chain code where it may have nothing to do with that brand whatsoever. So yeah, you kind of look at those things, and they went on. Well, in that case, they lost, right? And they got cut out of Intercon's brands for 3 years, and wound up coming back. But what was it? It was a divide and conquer strategy. And what do you look at a dozen years later? Similar sorts of things, except now we're at the top of the market, right? And so this is going to be this is a really good year to renegotiate your OTA agreement. Right. But on the way down, when things go down, it's going to be very interesting. And I think that article, you could say it was not, I think in terms of saying they're more valuable and things like that, but they were really clear in terms of that algorithm. And like, hey folks, there are all these factors of, yes, they want to sell the highest quality hotel and the best value to the customer and all that stuff. But there are a couple more factors in here of, are you playing nice with us? And are you, really giving us a best? And if not, you will be punished. And maybe not immediately, and probably my assessment is not to Expedia's detriment, right? They aren't going to go lose money to be vengeful and vindictive on you guys, but all of a sudden it's like if they're making the same amount of money, it's like, screw you. They're
going to make a lot of profit when you need them.
That's basically
what they said.
That's exactly right.
That's right.
But when has that not been true with Expedia?
Right, absolutely.
But that's how Priceline became the giant it is. It was during a financial crisis that they blew up, and it was it was one because the hotels just weren't prepared at all, had no real strategy to compete. And I'm talking in generalities.
Well, but are you talking Priceline or are you talking Booking.com? Because Booking.com blew up. Because Booking.com blew up specifically. No, what Booking did, though, that was really good, and I think this is where arrogance hurt Expedia, right, is Booking.com came in 2008, 2009, and they were like, look, we're going to negotiate very favorable terms with you, and all we want is 15%. And hotels immediately rolled over and said, not just but hell yeah.
Yep.
Like, people couldn't wait.
They played a game. That was right out of Expedia's playbook from the last time Expedia was nice. Booking.com used an Expedia play to be
when was that time that Expedia was nice?
When Hotels.com was the devil.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's true. That's actually true. All right, fair point. It's just been so long, I forgot.
Before you go, if anybody wants to know more information about you and where to find you, where can they find you?
Just click in the sidebar of any of the 12 blog posts. Yes.
Open Twitter.
That would be timpeter.com. or just do a search for Tim Peter. It shows up right at the top.
With no S.
With no S.
No S. Hey, just as a recap to your last statement, I want to add one thing to it. And from an ownership perspective, it's always about risk aversion. When they compare brand and OTAs, I just like to throw in the it's a matter of risk aversion. If you have a brand telling an owner, you don't have to hire the smartest people, and I know it's going to sound sucky. You don't have to go over and create your own infrastructure. We'll provide a support system, but it's going to cost you X number of dollars. And they have an OTA saying, hey, you can run your hotel, and as long as you operationally control it, we'll drive the business to you. The check's still cashed the same. They're going to do it as a risk aversion of how much money am I going to make at the least amount of risk. That's, I think, the real competition. So it does add merit a little bit to the snooty comment from Expedia saying, hey, we provide a value proposition to this that is a risk aversion improvement compared to a brand where you have this length of duration commitment, 10-year, these brand leases are not short-term decisions. And so that comes into the play of the decision process of the ownership. So yes, as much as I agree with you, it was a snooty, self-arrogant, stand on the soapbox, we're better than everybody comment. There is some merit to the value proposition of an OTA's risk aversion value to an owner.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I know I got to jump off, and I know you're right. At the same time, a lot of what they said in terms of why we actually make your risk go down was not true. They were comparing apples to things that maybe kind of sort of look like apples, maybe.
They're
But
commodities.
They're not. It's not like. I'm sorry.
But it's not the
But
same
they're
for
mammals.
Right? Yeah. I mean, it's it was an inapt comparison, and it was, I would argue, I won't say deliberately misleading, but it certainly was not characterized fairly in terms of what you're comparing. And I don't care if people sign up with a chain or go independent. To me, you should do what's right for your property.
Right.
What you shouldn't do is listen to the people who have a vested interest in making the most money off of you as to why the other guys who might be a better deal aren't.
Right. Yeah.
So you're saying do what's
All right.
right for your property unless you're paying Tim to tell you what's right for your property.
Well,
I mean,
if you're paying
conversation.
Just paraphrasing here.
if you're paying Tim, you will be doing what's right for your property.
And there you go.
There it is. There it is.
Leave on a high note, George.
Yeah, absolutely. You all have a great weekend. I will not be here next week, so I hope you all have a great 2 weeks, and I will see you on the whatever that is, the 19th. All right.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Send me some questions for our guests next week if you can. I'd love to throw them in, even if you're not there.
I'd be happy to. Thanks, guys. See you all soon.
Thanks,
Okay.
Deb.
Thank you.
All right.
Take care. All right, to throw in a couple of things that I did throw into the agenda as ideas, just some tools, and this is an advanced tool. I just want to throw this in for real quick. Have you all played with the Taguchi-based optimizers for ad development at all or anything like that? I had fun with it. I've never done it for a while.
I haven't.
And then I get back and I start playing with it, some of my ads that I was running. It's a multivariate tool. It's not complex. This isn't right. This is a new thing. It's a kind of, and for those who may be watching or listening to us, this is a tool that you hand your paid campaign manager and said, hey, what is our A/B testing? What is our multivariate testing? And how are we measuring it in our paid campaign programs? This is a fun little function tool that you can throw in there that you say, how many variables do I want? And you plug it in and it'll give you your comparative change-ups. And then you put in your modification performances and it'll give you comparative value propositions of which of your variants you should use. It's a simplistic tool for those who are in the space. It's a complex tool if you're not in the space. So I just want to throw it in our conversation. This is one of those little tool things that don't often get talked about. It's not sexy. It's not a new app or it's not a new software that's really cute looking, but it is a kind of a neat function tool to be aware of if you do paid ad campaigns. So I just want to make sure we threw it in there.
So, but what I think you should talk about is the principle that the tool is pushing, which is having this whole idea that you should constantly be testing. One of the challenges I see with this industry is they tend to, once something is done,
Yep.
Forget.
it's done.
And that's the big difference between the hotel brands and the hoteliers and the OTAs, where nothing's ever done. It's just a continual iteration of how do you improve the optimization.
Right. There is no right or wrong answer.
Right.
No, it's just the next answer.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's very true. And then I guess also from an admonition, we talked about the benefits of consultancy last week. We can also talk about the other edge of the sword, and that is complacency with agency relationships or consultancy relationships, is that if you accept the answer at face value, then that's the only answer you get. With the agencies, this is also to keep them to task, is often they'll do what you ask because you asked them as a client to do it. But then at the end of the month, when you're reviewing that monthly report or whatever you created as the update, they're only going to hide behind the fact that you gave them permission or that's the direction you gave them. Right. They aren't the ones that are actually coming to you saying, 2 days after you told them to do something, this is a bad idea. We've been doing these variants and what you want is not the best variant to what we should be doing. These kind of little tools in a very specific sense for paid are the method of asking those types of questions to say, look, what are your versions?
Here's another way to tell how your relationship is with your consultant, a vendor, an agency, is when you ask them a question. If they just answer it, then I'd be cautious. If they follow up with a question such as, well, what are you trying to accomplish? You're in a good place, right? And this is something that I think more and more people should be listening for when they ask or give direction. Is it's actually good for the person you're doing that to, even an employee, to actually go, well, what's the question behind the question? What are you trying to do? What's the goal? Right. And they're not doing it to try and stick you, because the challenge is when I ask that question all the time, and generally there was no goal.
Right. The number of clients who've come to me and asked some, they want to do something, and it's, it's sort of quasi shiny object syndrome, right? We need to do such and such. It's like, what, which strategies that's supporting? Is this a new strategy? Well, no, somebody else has it. We got to do it. It's like, why are they doing it? Is it working for them?
Yeah,
they don't know.
Match.com.
Yeah, exactly. Tinder. Yeah.
Well, and here's there are more advanced. For instance, SpyFu, another platform. No reason to mention it. I mean, it's just another tool.
Sure.
Not endorsing any value of it. I use it along with a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
There is a way. There are functions within these tools that you can see what your competitor. Again, you don't always have to be the creator of the wheel. Sometimes you just need to put tread on somebody else's. And you can see, using some of these tools like SpyFu, the repetitive A/B testing that's being done by your competitors. And you can see where they're going either back to a version of an ad or are completely scrapping. You see whole new versions of ad, and you can learn from their progress where you don't have to recreate the wheel or go through the same methodology. You can look at their ad variants and see the triggers that are creating the potential improvement of that ad and adopt those techniques for yourself. And not steal it, not copy paste it, because it doesn't help always. But you can actually learn from saying, well, you know what, this kind of call to action or this kind of statement or this information seems to be relevant to them and it's relevant to me. Let me adopt it. So it is a functional way. To your point, Ed, you should always be thinking of the next thing, because unfortunately they set an ad campaign, it shows early success. Maybe they went through a multivariate testing, and then they just let it sit until it dies a slow and painful, progressive, diminishing death. And then they wonder why.
Where it erases all ROI that it had early on by being a waste of money.
A conversation I had with a guy yesterday, and there was a digital agency that does a lot of stuff, lots of testing. And we mentioned the book now button earlier. They said book now doesn't work compared to make a reservation. Book now is the worst thing you can put, at least in terms of their tests that they've been running. It's just not, people don't respond to make a reservation. Yes, they'll click more. So the other was, and we already went through the video viewship that we had. Video, for lack of even paying for it, is a great medium for just getting the message across. It's the eye catcher. And I know that we've talked about, I did on the podcast about the autoplay videos and trying to tool that so that it plays, but you still have the link to what you want people to go to in your postings, like for Facebook and for LinkedIn. But there is, for those who are interested in, I've used it for something different. I haven't used it for ours yet. I'll be curious to see what happens. But there's this other tool that I want to throw up. It's Brandzuka. It's a video proponent tool. What it's allowing is some demographic profiling with non-specific platforms. So you're not saying on Facebook I want this or on Twitter I want this. What you're telling them is, this is the type of profile, this is the purpose of the video, either for direct conversion or branding or exposure or voice or whatever. And this is the demographic I think is most interested in it. And then they pursue the channels of distribution and you pay for that distribution, which I thought was kind of an interesting, I'm going to test it some and see what can come out of it. I mean, I don't know whether either of you played with something like this or not, but we'll check kind of see what's up with that. I thought it was kind of curious. So there is a promo for it that you can get $50 off. I'm going to play with some free money.
Cool. So what's funny is, and Lauren, if you do want to have a real chat about video, Hunter from my team has said that he's happy to come on in my place and talk about it. So we've been going through a process of how to correctly conquer video in marketing. And so what we identified early on is quality of the content and the messaging inside a video is far more important than pretty much anything else you do. So the tools and things like that should only be at top of mind when you have a nice process already figured out on the scripting of videos, the production of videos, and you're not reliant solely on vendors to do that. So, what we did is we went two paths. We lit up our own video path, and then we also hired what we sought out as the best type of vendor. And what we quickly realized is the most of the value you get out of a vendor is actually the messaging and scripting and things like that. When it comes time for going to production, they're using generally available tools and methodologies that some of these things you can buy for like $50.
Right.
And it's not that grand. So the trick is to have a strategy first. Like, this isn't with video, I would not recommend going the shoot, what is it? Shoot, aim, ready, or something like that.
Yeah.
You
fire,
should
fire, fire, aim, ready.
Yeah, something like that. You should have a strategy, a well thought out strategy, and that shouldn't be a strategy of mimicking either. Like, if you see someone who's doing video that you really like, you should sit down and analyze it and pick apart what they're doing with it, and then work backwards from there to build your strategy. Because video, like more advanced communication, video done well is incredibly valuable. Mm-hmm. Video done poorly is not neutral.
Right.
It's eroding.
Yeah.
Just like social done really well is very rewarding. Social done incorrectly completely destroys your reputation.
Yep.
And so, there are certain areas of marketing that you just shouldn't go into lightly. So if you want to do a bigger talk on the journey we just recently went through to figure out our path to video, my team is happy to come on and share that, because we want other people to do it well as well, because it will actually overall just make life a lot easier for everyone. It'll continue to give video traction and, continue to improve things, but it's also a great way to take a very complicated topic and simplify it.
And that's where everything's at. I mean, Zuckerberg, I think, came out this week and said Facebook is a video first company now. Mm-hmm. That's where they're going.
Yep.
No, just tell Hunter he has an open standing invitation.
Well, he said, because I told him I wasn't going to be here next Friday. So if you do want to have that as
I don't know how long Neil wants to stay with us. I mean, if he gets going, he can stay an hour. If not, he can whatever. But video is always a well-worthy topic. And I even tossed in the bottom of this one, not knowing if Hunter was going to jump in around even this week, just saying, hey, I have some points to make about video do's and don'ts about how to use Facebook Live that we do simulcasting with. And just, it's a topic that I think we should always keep bouncing around in some aspect or another. So please, if he wants to next week, I'd love to have him on. I have another thing just for newsworthy. Like I said, not to keep to agenda items, I'm just throwing them in just to have them thrown in, since Tim's, the little seat's empty, and I think Dave's no longer with us. I don't think Dave's even sitting around with us right now. So I'm going to go over and post this in. And this was, I thought this was an interesting statement, and I didn't know if that was a solicitation of an idea or not. We don't have to hit it completely now, but we can certainly talk about as much as we want about the tipping point of Asia Pacific online travel sales. Mm-hmm. And it goes back to the mobile adoption that they have in comparison to us, the unlearning of traditional interactions, desktop into mobile, they didn't have, that we had talked about earlier. But I find it very interesting because the big sleeping giant is China right now, still in international travel. But internally, I mean, from a firsthand experience, it's amazing the growth pattern and the inventory that they have to market and the travel differences that they have. They don't like flying. Mm-hmm. They don't like their airlines, any of them. And no matter, and there's almost an airline for every direct link. And unlike we did the hub and spoke thing with us, they just do direct links. There's an airline that goes between these two cities. Yep. That's it. And if you want to get to that city from this city, that's the only airline that flies to that city, kind of thing. So there's a big train business. Mm-hmm. Theirs is all about the train, and the train is almost as fast. And they said if you add the time with delays and problems, mechanical issues, and so forth, it's actually consistently the fastest way to get between major metros.
Sure.
Is their train.
Well, listen, when your train tracks don't have to cross any intersections because there are no paved roads in a large amount of your country, it is actually easy to make train travel really nice.
Well, they did it in Europe and they had roads.
Well, no, the thing is, even though it goes to the city, because the government owns all the land, if they say the train goes this way, if the choo-choo go this way, the city goes bye-bye.
Part of the benefit of that type of approach.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, if you look at it, America went through its whole thing about freedom was being able to drive in a car and drive through the highway system and get anywhere you want to go. That caused problems for other infrastructure.
You bet. Killed a huge number of towns. All the little towns along Route 66 and all that just got smoked by the interstate highway system.
But unfortunately, I learned that by watching Disney Pixar's Cars.
Yeah. The little town there was.
No, but I mean,
which is how Ed gets all of his historic information from.
No, Facebook newsfeed.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
4% Facebook newsfeed.
So, but the point is they can, and they have, and that's why the United States infrastructure for travel is a disaster compared to other countries. Like, train is a joke here.
Right.
And part of the reason is they never really thought through how to keep train relevant as a form of transportation. So now they are just basically same as a bus.
Right.
I mean, it's about the same amenities.
Except you got the Northeast Corridor for Amtrak, which works pretty well. And I mean, after living in Milwaukee, the little Amtrak connection down to Chicago worked great, right?
Well, Chicago's public transportation, I think, is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was good. But don't try to get to Minneapolis by Amtrak. It was ridiculous, right? Or to Madison or any of the things where they were lined up. And they had Department of Transportation did a really nice high-speed rail plan. It very, very smart plan. Not cheap, but high-speed rail isn't cheap. You get all the benefits, once it's established, when you build out the infrastructure, and it got shelled politically. I mean, the ridiculous things that happened with my former governor in Wisconsin, they declined $250 million in federal funding to kill the project because the Midwest corridor basically would have Minneapolis kind of going down through, connecting towns with universities, go through wherever, Madison, that sort of thing, out to Milwaukee, down, connect up to St. Louis, out to Detroit. And, you suddenly got this system where you went, wow, this is fantastic. You don't have to drive a car through Chicago to get to something.
No.
This is terrific, right?
Being from Florida, and of course, with Ed being in Florida as well, I mean, I think Florida is the poster child of stupidity when it comes to killing speed trains.
Well, but they did the same thing. The governor there gave up the money. Right. Rejected the money. Indiana, they rejected the money, and they killed the programs because those were key.
But look who fought against it. Look who fought against this. The CVBs and everybody else. They didn't want the connectivity. They want the uniqueness. They don't want the shared ability. They want to be that if you're going to go to Orlando, you're going to Orlando, and you don't have the option, without it being a challenging one, to go to Miami, or vice versa. Both of them agreed. They got in the same room and said, "This is great. We don't want to share our clients. We want to compete and get the clients we get. We don't want to have to share them with you."
But we're finally getting high-speed rail between Orlando and Miami.
Right.
How?
Yeah.
Dallas, it's private.
Dallas,
It's
well,
not
after Dallas and Houston figure out how to save the free-range gerbils, we might get the train track between Dallas and Houston.
That's never happening in Texas. Never happening.
When you look at that, the state. The state control has messed with the ability for cross-border travel to really be limited to either car or plane.
Yep.
I mean, that's it. And train never stood a chance. And it's a pity, because if you've gone on any of these high-speed rails in any of these other countries, they're so much better than flying. Because flying here is the worst too. Like, transportation outside of your own car in the United States is horrible. It's just the worst. And even the best, compared to any other form of transportation in any other country, is the worst. I mean...
Well, it goes to the fact, too, is that our culture, not to get existential about it, it's always we're looking for the next best thing. We're not looking at taking what we have and making it better always. We make it as best as we can until the next best thing comes in. And then we abandon the previous and we don't carry it along. And culturally, going back to the Chinese thing, they're looking at it like, well, we're going to keep adding to what we do well, not replace what we've done well. And it's just a bit of a difference, because go back to hotel branding. It's almost the same as that. They're not trying to make the core brands better. They're trying to establish their legacy value, but they're trying to find always the next best thing. That's why there's 31 flavors of Marriott and everything else, is that they're trying to find the uniqueness of the next better thing. And because there's a lot of these brands out there that, yes, I understand their marketing strategy. No, I don't understand the value proposition.
Yeah, well, and for Marriott, and I love Marriott, right? They're a client, but with their 31, then they will have 31 brands, right? So it's a crazy, Sheraton, Westin, Renaissance, a lot of they have no, brand image. They're just really kind of generic things, right? They're kind of big traditional full service hotels. And if you take and it doesn't matter, you take the Sheraton sign. Well, sometimes for the vast majority of the properties, unfortunately, you take the Sheraton sign off and you put a Hilton sign on or a Radisson sign, or nothing changes. It's there's no differentiator where you go, oh wow, it's a such and such. That's great. Now I know what that is. So it's like, it's something. So it's sad.
Well, I threw a bunch of all this stuff in just at the tail end, just to make sure that we had it into the context of things.
Because he pre-wrote out the recap.
Exactly.
I had a few.
At what time?
I just want a little timestamp on saying I had it in there. Because that's a pain in the ass, by the way. You're the one that gave me the recommendation that you should time break it down. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You know what? Because people don't want to listen to 2 hours.
Actually, what I told you was give it to my team. My team will cut the videos up into clips. So then we'll have clips of each topic that then can be shared in bite-sized formats by all of us. That's what I said.
And you can compress it down to about 2 minutes, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's enough. That's all we got. 2 minutes. That's it.
Yeah. Well, no, anything that has nothing to do with anything, like this is actually a 8-minute show.
Exactly.
2 hours and 45 minutes.
That's right.
That's it. Well, he does. Hunter does have all. I download them now at one.
Whatever he does with them, he'll send them to you guys so you have them. So then we can all start putting it out there. And because every now and then we do have a really good minute straight of like deep talk that's valuable. Yep. I think we would have probably 50,000 viewers by now if we could just cut down. And I know I'm part of the problem.
Oh no, I know. And you know what? And that's why there's an exercise in love on this, because if I start documenting the highlight peaks of conversation, there's actually was that for me, honestly, Robert, my biggest takeaway today was you're talking about Mosaic versus Melting Pot. I thought it was a great dialogue. I thought it was a great comparison between like a Ritz-Carlton and a Four Seasons and a market strategy. Which one, if you're a multi-unit, are you doing? And I thought it was a great point. And Tim piggybacked on it with the frame versus the painting focus. What's your market strategy? You're focusing on the product. You're focusing on the brand itself, providing the product. I thought those were some really solid points to it. We got a couple links and some other stuff. Like I said, the conversation now that I'm doing these highlight points, I'm catching things out of it that I think are pretty cool. So I do have to thank you for making hey, it's a pain in the ass to do, but now I post the video on the site and I put the highlights to it, and I put the podcast the same thing. I think it's helping. I think people are feeling like they can go and see what they want to listen to at the right time. So, minus the animation ads that seem to be the more productively popular thing at this point. Any other thing that you would like to mention that we didn't get to cover, or that you had brought that you thought you were going to get brought up in conversation at all?
I was just going to rip up the thing on the loyalty thing that the guys at the University in Hong Kong did, which
we can throw that into next one.
But that's okay. I was going to rip up the shreds.
Let's do it.
We can do it. I'm not in a rush.
No, I got to go. Oh, it's an hour and a half. We got to be disciplined here.
No. Wait. Then don't talk about it next week.
2 hours.
Don't talk about it next week. Talk about it the week after when I'm back.
That's right. We're gonna make you wait for that one.
2 weeks I'm not going to be here. 19th I won't be here. So
3 weeks it is.
So are you going to be here next week?
Next week I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here next week. Not the week.
All right, Eddie, you'll be able to make it, or no, you won't be able to make it next week, will you?
No. Oh no, but we have 2 seats. So if we got Ed's video guy in and Neil, we'll have 4. The 4 cubes will be.
And maybe David may make it. I mean, David's been great. He pops on the side with some great comments.
He does.
Yeah. So maybe I don't think he's here now with it, but if he does the playback, David, if you're with us, we'd love to give you a chair. Not that we wouldn't do it anytime you asked it, but we'd love to have you grab a chair if you have it as well. For those who, just to be fair to Robert's statement here, hold on, let me take the link that I had shared about the hotel loyalty program and throw it into the notes here, so that
the quick
foreshadow what you're tearing apart, because I'm really interested.
No, number one, the sample size was only 334 people, so it's not really a very representative size. Number 2, the income ranges were way low and not really representative of the typical span of hotel frequent guests. Third is they looked at 2 things. One was economic value and one was social value. The social value was basically like brand or value adds, things like that, better services, upgrades, things like that, which I don't really look at as social value. Those are just different kinds of economic, it's all based on value. It's the price versus the stuff you get.
See, not always though, because like one brand loyalty program that just got me, and it wasn't really a hotel, it was a gaming, but man, Harrah's with their
Total Rewards
card, Total Rewards, man, with the level. I didn't actually care to use my points or anything. I just wanted to keep the level that made me never have to wait in line for anything and never had to have a reservation at any restaurant and sat in. That type of reward was so effective. And I would actually come an extra trip just to make sure I gamed enough to re-up my level.
Yeah.
I mean, so it did what no other loyalty program's ever been able to do with me, which was
recognition. Yeah, and so I would have said instead of social, it's really recognition.
It is
versus discounts or offers or things like that. And and that's what leads. The recognition does create the loyalty, right? Where you're treating them.
But is that economic based? Because I was going to ask that question.
They're too. Yeah.
If I'm a price conscious traveler, I'm worried about that free bottle of water. Compared to I'm a rich traveler, I'm more worried about the recognition. Is that a fair statement to say?
No.
Or is that just a generalization?
I think everyone likes to feel special. Right. So if you have a level that has things that make people feel special, you will speak to wide audiences with that level. Yeah. I mean, just bottom line, everyone likes to be
right.
They like to feel like they have something that the rest of the people don't have. That is in all human psyche, right? So I think if you could find a way, and I like Harrah's use, because what do you think it costs Harrah's to make me not have to wait in line at a taxi stand? Cost them nothing. No. What do you think it costs them to allow me to skip someone else who has a reservation? Nothing.
But the interesting thing is, now they're Caesars, and you're still calling them Harrah's, which is interesting.
They go back, so I don't know. I mean, their problem is they committed the sin of rebranding too many times. They were Caesars, then they were Caesars Entertainment, and then they were Harrah's for a little bit. Then they went Caesars Entertainment again. Like, what are you like?
And their biggest sin was taking on $23 billion in debt.
Oh yeah.
Gary Loveman's great quote. I saw him at spoke at a conference, and he said, if anybody wants to know what having $23 billion in debt is like, he goes, it's like waking up in the morning with a refrigerator on your chest. So.
But you know what? But from an ownership perspective, and anybody looking to acquire, it's not so much the product. I'm back with the Walshes in OPL days. They looked at so many properties that were great properties that had great revenue potential, great awareness, it fit everything that they wanted to do. But they would have to take on the debt structure that polished put the lipstick on the pig for them to be marketable. Yeah. And it just wasn't an assumable debt. That's what scared a lot of them away. It's like you're taking on the baggage of the previous relationships, kind of thing. Yeah. But Holly joined us, and so I want to keep with the loyalty thing. So just as a statement of purpose with this is that if you acid bath down everything we just briefly mentioned, the real value proposition of loyalty is recognition. That's it. At the end of the day, it's not the freebies, it's not the gimmies, it's the I feel special compared to anybody else who didn't do what I do to get it.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, and it's even better.
You don't actually need a program to do that.
What I think a lot of the groups need to do, and I talk to my clients about this, is
Holly disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get into that in just a second.
Good.
What I say is,
dial in, Holly.
There's a lot of effort for guest acquisition, right? Tremendous amount of effort, and you get them to be the first time. That the effort to get them to be a returning guest needs to be, the experience and the travel. That's what will do that. Then to make them a repeat guest is it. And then once you can do that, that's a good situation. Oh, we got one person calling in.
Oh, that is Holly. Holly, come on. Let's see.
There she is.
I taunted her. There she is. Taunted her. You can't just disagree and not say.
So recognition, of course, is critical, but it's the speed of service. So it's the fact that because you're a loyal customer, you get to go to the front of the line. I agree it's not the stuff, but the research shows that it is much more about what your loyalty is going to get you in terms of expedited service,
better experience.
Yeah, I think that's what we are. So we agree then. I think we were just calling something different.
I missed the first.
Oh,
everything it's everything is faster, cheaper, better. People like those three things.
Absolutely.
And by the way,
if you can do all three together, it's really good. They love
with me,
that.
if you can do all three without having to have a person delivering it, even better. Like, give me a kiosk. Let me just go to my room.
But I'll still go back, and I've said this before. J.D. Power's study shows that, and not for everyone, right? Certainly this is broad scope, but the more interaction that guests have with hotel staff, the higher the level of satisfaction. With airline employees, it's the exact opposite.
Yeah.
The more interaction, the
There's
lower the level of satisfaction.
There you go.
I think if you
my
also looked at
point is,
how happy
for you,
employees are.
The other thing at it is, hey, oh, I got to go get my cat, and we can introduce it to the dog.
You've been jumping on all of my meetings today.
That's right. No, I was just going to say one. If I can remember the one up, and I've lost it. Anyway,
well,
the dog.
So then I'll talk about a couple examples. So I went to Boca Resort. Their staff was so well trained at having authentic, quick interactions with guests.
Right.
To the point where they didn't feel contrived. They didn't feel like this is the 50,000th time that this person said this to a guest. But also to the point where we quickly learned, first of all, a lot of people who work at that resort are from Orlando. So as people from Orlando, we were like, hey, this is funny. But take that versus other luxury experiences that we've gone to where it's like, quick chat, show me you care, great. Unless I'm engaging you back, don't stretch it. Like, don't stretch it too long, right? Because like, read my body language, read how much I'm saying in return to see if I want to engage in this very lengthy checklist of things that you're trying to do conversationally with me.
Yeah, and that was the point I was going to make. If the guest is the center of it, and that engagement is to benefit the guest, then that's great. Right? If you're talking about things the guest needs, if you're doing things the guest that's for the benefit of the hotel, hey, you need to go stand in the line so we can process you and get your credit card and do this and hand you a piece of plastic again. That benefit has zero benefit to the guest. Aside from that's the only way they can get to the room. So, yeah. Was that Lauren's stomach rumbling?
It was
No, it was not.
pushing the dog. He wants to be a part of this.
Yeah. So, but that's the key. If it's for the guest and you get benefit, then that's great. The person's helping you. And I think what you're saying with the kiosk is a lot faster and better, and you don't have to deal with any of they're trying to upsell me. They're trying to do this. They're hitting the checklist.
Actually, upsell the heck out of me, but just let me look at it. Let me see what my choices are. Let me pick them and let me move on. Because nothing kills me more as a professional traveler than having to wait in line because the person in front of me is chit-chatty with the employee who's also chit-chatty, even though there's 17 people in line waiting. Like, you want to chit-chat? That's great. Not with the front desk. And so there is a balance to this interaction and who it should be. Like, the bell captain, housekeeping, any of that staff. I think it's amazing when they are being personable and say hi and engage you and say things like, I hope you have a great day and stuff like that. Like, that's the staff that should be doing it. But there is certain functions of dealing with the business that should just have the statement of happy to have my other person who doesn't have 17 people waiting for them talk to you about this. And hotels that pull it off well, I think this plays towards loyalty, because if it's done right and it's at the appropriate time, I think that's how you start winning relationships. But it's just like that server who you're in a meeting with someone and the server at the restaurant sits down and it's kind of like, I get what you're doing. Okay, I get you're trying to be friendly, but
go away.
My gosh, we're talking. Like, okay, do your thing.
It's funny you make that as an example, because I was actually going to say, and I've told you before, I used to be a former waiter in my earliest and hospitality thing, and there was a magic about service, about being there but not being there, being there when it was needed, and doing what needed to be done without being intrusive about it. And it's almost like you're recommending that people go through training like that to realize what it's like to be a servant, but not necessarily the leader of what it takes to be the servant. Your presence is there when it's needed. You talk when when they want to talk to you. You're engaging, but they're also respectful of the fact that when you politely dismiss yourself, it's with the awareness of the fact that they're not the only one that garners your attention. Right. And to your point about the front desk, it's okay to be friendly and efficient, but the front desk to be also attentive and realizing this isn't the time to be chatty because of the responsibility of the 17 people. Right. And to just say, Mr. Smith, I would love, can I give you a call after things settle down here? I'd love to answer a few more of your questions. Right. Please don't feel like I'm putting you off. I just don't want the other guests to have to work. And most people, out of common sense and courtesy, can empathize. I don't want to be that person behind me. So yeah, you know what? Yep. Yeah, call me later. Or you know what? I'll stop back down. But there's a lesson to be learned about the art of service. Right. And that is really what it is the art of service.
They should hire a training company.
Honestly.
Yeah.
You guys are talking as I heard you earlier. And one thing I think Loveman does better than anyone I've ever seen is measures his customer service. They are amazing at how many tests they run and how much data they have and actually use in terms of when they make slight changes in their service delivery, how much does it impact their loyalty and their gaming spend?
Well, that's the bottom line, is the gaming spend. He could care less about the customers, really, but it's the bottom. No. I'm just teasing. The outcome is he knows if he treats them well, he gets a better bottom line. But
absolutely,
they're a means to the end.
We worked with them to devise a training program for all 70,000 employees, and I was astounded at how they could see the impact that the training was having, or not in some cases. But what they found is, literally, if an employee makes eye contact, smiles, and says welcome, it increased their loyalty exponentially. It was nuts. Just if there was consistent, and it also prevented, if there was a problem later in the day, it made them much less likely to abandon ship.
Yep. And housekeepers, everyone in the hotel, bellman, doorman, doesn't matter. Yep.
But then there's 5 elements really: smile, welcome, but timeliness and competence. And so to your point, employees have to read the circumstances. And if you're not in a mood to talk, don't engage. But if you have a question to ask them, they have to seem like they have to appear competent, or it's really frustrating to people.
Right. Yep.
So
Disney does a good job training their employees on how to interact with guests.
Well, just the very concept that you're cast as a character and not as an employee. Right. Starts the process down that path. I mean, I always appreciated that about the Disney. Yes, it's not brainwashing. It's integration into a program.
It's behavior modification.
Used to involve water.
But I don't want your screen to go dark.
And electricity.
You're in the house of the mouse, man. They control everything.
It doesn't rain over Disney.
That's right.
Don't rain over Disney. Nope. But yes, to your point, that it's the path of their, because they also feel like they're vetted into something too. They get there and acknowledging them as well. And to your point, Robert, that is a business. Nobody goes into a restaurant unless it's a charity organization that you're giving money for the purpose of better good. You're giving money because somebody's figured out how to sell something that you want. Right. So being good at it is only an improvement of the ability to do the business. Yes. So yeah, I mean, better service, better business, and rather than just investing in the turnover, invest in the retention. So it's all good.
And that's the thing when you start looking at online review management and things like that. It's like, yes, that you got to take care of reviews and do all that stuff, but get the operation right, and then you won't be in this kind of damage control syndrome of having to deal with that.
Something about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, the reviews are the output from the stay, not necessarily an input, even though it does affect the cycle.
I always love listening to Adele Gutman with the library collection, because they're consistently in the top 10, and her secret is deliver great customer service. And you'll You'll be in the top 10 too.
The bottom, I really think for the library, yes, certainly, and it's a cultural thing that they are very geared toward that. But the one thing that they do consistently that nobody else does is try to figure out why the traveler is traveling. What are they trying? What are you trying to accomplish on this trip? Why are you here? And all of a sudden you get such an incredible quantity of information that you can personalize the stay. You can help them. Oh, you're here for business. That's great. You're doing this. Or, yeah, I got to take some guy to dinner and I don't know where. Oh, well, what kind of food do you? Oh, here's a great Italian place just opened down. Hey, and the concierge knows a guy who can get you in. Yeah.
Yep.
We can
Hospitality.
get you with this. Yeah. Amazing concept.
Yeah, well, it is. But, it's funny. I have to confess something about Adele. Is like when Adele's been a good friend for many, many years. We've been on council for many, many years. And I watched Adele go through this transition where she was, and at first I actually stepped back a little bit from Adele when she really went full bore into TripAdvisor. I was thinking I felt like she was selling herself out to TripAdvisor as a concept. She was all about TripAdvisor, all about getting your rankings in TripAdvisor, all about getting reviews on TripAdvisor. And I felt that she turned into, a TripAdvisor person that happened to work for a hotel group. And I didn't see the method to her madness. I didn't see the fact that this was, to your point, Robert, the representation, the end product of providing the service that generated the results that she was so adamantly about trying to get. And it really was creating the depth of making the organization she worked for believe in the value proposition of positive feedback. And the vehicle that was in the market was TripAdvisor. So that's where she raised her flag on. And it come to really appreciate her absolute passion about making sure that the guest's experience generated the results on the platform that people recognize most on the representation of guest satisfaction.
And that's what
so it's kind of a fun transition for me to watch.
Also, by the way, it doesn't hurt that all their properties are nice.
Yeah.
Damn nice.
But
I want to go.
But they were
they
were nice long before TripAdvisor, right? And they did that because they went on, for the Elysee, which is one of my favorite hotels in New York, right? It's great. It's got the monkey bar downstairs. It's terrific. Great location. But they always did that, but they relied on word of mouth. That was it. They didn't have this mechanism where, oh my gosh, all of a sudden this word of mouth can get published someplace where hundreds of millions of people are going to look at this. This is
word
amazing.
Of mouth is incredibly strong.
And that was it. And that's all they did. They just, and I think that's why she was so passionate about it was, it was like, wow, we just gave every one of these little people a megaphone, a megaphone and a big amplifier.
Yep.
But to Lauren's point, I do think it's funny. People still do ask her repeatedly what the secret is, like as if there's something beyond customer service they can't quite buy, that just delivering this exceptional experience actually nets them these results.
Well, and refusing to accept anything else from yourself. I think that's the thing is I think a lot of companies set off with what they want to do, but then over time, other things pull their attention away from that focus and they lose sight of the fact that they're not actually doing what they set out to do. And that's why you hire a consultant. And that's why most consultants lead with, let's get back to the basics. Because it's usually the cause of most problems are you're not doing what you set out to do, and you need to.
Or you're not doing. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, but do what you say.
Right.
There's just like any parenting role, and I'm not trying to take credit for being a parent of anything, but as a manager, that if you go over and say this is the bar we want, and yet you constantly accept lesser than that. That is the example that's given to everybody else that's still trying to attain that bar. You actually have to walk and let go of somebody that isn't matching what you've told them is the requirement. And even as painful as it is, as good as they are on other facets. And that's where they fall down to, because managers sit back and say, well, yeah, he's not really good at that, or she's not really good at that. But look at all the other stuff they do. And they find justifications to accept a lesser than what is identified standard. But what they don't realize is the ripple to the other team. At that point, the rest of the team says, oh, so it's not really a standard. As long as I'm valuable in some other level, I'm going to be okay on this one. And all of a sudden, your standard of quality goes down. I really honestly believe that in Adele's hotels, there have been very good people let go for the reasons that they didn't maintain the culture that they're trying to infuse in their day-to-day operations and guest satisfaction. No matter how good of an accountant or front desk or engineer or housekeeper they were, they just weren't good enough for what they wanted that person to be on that standard.
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. I think that's a culture thing.
Yeah.
And
I think
which is why you're spending a day talking to somebody this Friday. Why you can't be with us is that it's not about their skill set. They wouldn't be talking to you if the skill set didn't already exist. You're talking to them on whether or not that what they can do fits into how you've created your ecosystem of culture. And that's the real key element to it. Are they going to be a cancer, or are they going to be an organ that improves the life of the company? So
and most of
you're
the good
either an
ones,
appendix or a heart.
Yeah. Well, but most of the good ones also empower the guests.
Give me a minute.
They empower the employees to really help the guests, right? They can bend the rules, they can go the extra mile, and it isn't just like, well, this is it, and I see you're in a really bad situation. It's not really in the manual, so I can't. It's let's help this person out and go make it happen. And then
Which also requires hiring people who generally care.
Yeah. That's the spirit to serve.
Yep.
I mean, you made it a point the last time. Do you like people?
Question number one. Do you generally like people? No?
If not, maybe you should be an engineer. I'm just saying.
Back of house is.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to make you fix the air coolers.
No, because they could be seen by people.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true. I did tell you that one of my sneaky things I did in food and beverage was I would put bacon in front of the air handlers so that the place smelled like bacon, so people would give up breakfast. It worked pretty well. Some people would say, "Man, my room smells like bacon." It's like, man, really? That's
lost the vegan market, but okay.
This was back before that was cool.
Yeah,
that was right. Bacon was bacon, and bacon's still bacon. Damn it. Well, we're at an hour and a half-ish mark, but I wanted to make a point of, Holly, can you join us next week? We're going to have Neil from Fairmont over at Revenue Management. He's going to join us next week.
I love sitting in on the sidelines and listening and type my comments, so I'm happy to do that.
We like having you.
Yeah.
You bring good. You make us look good when you do this.
Yeah,
okay?
I was dumb.
You actually tell people questions. You disagree. All too often, it's a love fest between Tim and Ed.
Exactly. It's getting a little weird.
I try everything I can to make that not happen. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I did to him earlier this week, and it was.
I will be here. I will be here. I'm going to jump off now because I have to go sell some training. Wish me luck.
All right, we're going to sell some training. Yep. Be here next week.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
I should have jumped off 25 minutes ago to go do something.
I generally don't eat lunch on Fridays because of this.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of this, I'm a late luncher myself. But, well, Joe, is there anything else that we didn't hit? That was fun to have Holly join us. It was great to talk about it, Joe, because she's one of those people that you look at, and she does get awards, and she does get to speak at conferences. It's not as if she's unknown to her successes, and she got to be top 25. Same year I think I was able to, but just the persistence of her. She doesn't waver from this year in and year out. She didn't do it just 1 year to get recognition. This has been a persistent year development by year development to it. And those are the people in the industry that need to be pointed out to say, that's what makes successful business in the hospitality industry, is provide the guests what they want. The rest all comes following that. So I'd love to get her on here sometime. I should go chase her down individually sometime to say, would you please come on?
Because she's a personality too.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, yeah. Just to have her chat, but so please ask Hunter. Please join us next week.
He's in. So count him in. I already did that. So he's in.
So we'll have him for
He'll take you through our journey through video. Like Tim Peter, he'll post a blog post link.
There we go.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, now see, Tim doesn't post a blog post.
You're right.
Yes.
Tim posts persistent blog posts, but he has the content. I'm amazed. It's like, how does he? I have a struggle just keeping the podcast, the live thing, the this thing going, and the other stuff. And it's like he's got a machine.
I think he does things when he flies.
I think so.
That's gonna be it. That's got to be it, because man, he puts out some stuff. Anyway, so Robert, you'll be with us next week. Yes. Excellent. Ed, we'll talk about you as always when you're not there.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, we'll ask Hunter more candid stories. And we'll have Neil from Fairmont with us for revenue management discussions. Right. And we'll have video discussions. Those will be our two big things, and I'll promote that out of it. If anybody needs to find more information about you, Mr. Ed, how can they find you?
Go to flip.to or look me up by name, Edward St. Ange.
Excellent. And Mr. Robert?
Rockcheetah.com or at Robert K. Cole on social media.
Excellent. And for me, it's at hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com or my Twitter handle at Lauren Gray. For everyone that joined us live in and out over the course of the hour and a half, thank you so much for joining us at that. For those who are on the Facebook Live, 200 and something of it. Wow. Nice. Thank you for having joined us.
Appreciate you sticking with us.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good to have big families, isn't it?
Exactly.
And of course, the recordings will be able to be found on hospitalitydigitalmarketing.com/blabcast. And our next show is always at Friday, 10:30 Central, 11:30 Eastern. The link will be bit.ly/HDM Blab53. And of course, put up that posting as we go along. So, gentlemen, thank you again for the time. Always the conversation. And until next Friday, have an awesome week.
You guys enjoy.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.